Hi, mystery writers. This is Write a Killer Mystery, where we learn to make a good mystery great. My name is Zara Altair, and I am a mystery writer and also have a course, Write a Killer Mystery, which is parallel to this series. So, before we get into today's topic, which is all about rising action in a mystery and what that means for a mystery novel, I want to thank my patrons on Patreon for their continued support of my writing and this video series. And if you'd like to support, there's a link to Patreon in the description below. Okay, so what is rising action in a mystery? Because rising action um, carries your story from the inciting incident to the climax. That's pretty much the bulk of your story, and especially in a mystery. Um, Rising action uses a number of events to build on the conflict and increase tension and drives your story to the dramatic end. And your mystery has one major goal: to find the villain. In other words, to reveal the truth. And once your detective reveals the villain, that's the climax of your mystery. Your story is over as far as mystery readers are concerned. So, for a mystery, the rising action is going to be pretty much the bulk of your book. And it comprises your sleuth's journey um, to discover that truth. So, let's just kind of go through how this works. In the beginning of your story, you introduce your sleuth, and your reader sees your hero or heroine in action and gets to know how they work. And this section of your story is called exposition. In other words, you're exposing your reader to your sleuth. So your reader has an opportunity to get to know them and know how they feel about them and know if they want to take this mystery journey with your sleuth. And that is the main aim of the beginning. So you want to make your character attractive before the real action of the story happens. And so this is not rising action. This is like exposing your sleuth to your readers so they get to see how they operate, how they think, how they act. Um, all right, then comes the inciting incident. And this is the moment when your sleuth takes on the case, as it were, and for whatever reason, your sleuth decides that they are going to solve this mystery puzzle. Um, so that's the inciting incident, the moment that they decide. It can be anything. Mainly it's a commitment. So whether they're a law enforcement officer and they're assigned to the case, or whether they're a cozy mystery protagonist and they take the case on for whatever the reason. Uh, and then the climax is what happens after your detective searches for the truth and they finally arrive at who the villain is and reveals that villain to other characters and to the reader. And for mystery readers, this revelation is the climax of your mystery, and the because your detective has ended their search for the truth. So, rising action happens between the inciting incident, when they decide and make a commitment to take on solving the puzzle, and the climax, where they actually reveal the villain. So everything in the middle is rising action. So between that inciting incident and the climax, um, you're going to have incidents, actions, revelations, conflicts, twists, that keep your reader reading. And that's the whole point of the rising action. You want to keep the action going so your reader stays interested. So, rising action in a mystery is your detective's journey toward revealing the truth. And although you may think of action as fight scenes, that's not the action that happens in a traditional mystery. Um, Most of the action is actually cerebral, or your sleuth may be going places to interview different suspects. Um, but the focus of the action is on how your detective discovers clues and how that information brings them closer to the truth. It's easier to moderate how the action progresses of you if you think of this big middle part in two parts, the discovery and the narrowing of suspects. So after the inciting incident, um, mainly your sleuth is discovering information, and up to the midpoint, this is pretty much what happens. Your sleuth discovers the victim's world, they interview suspects, they collect evidence. Um, the detective usually knows little or nothing about the victim at the moment of the inciting incident. So, this whole first part is discovering who the victim was and who the people in their world were and how they conducted life and what kind of personality that victim has. Um, they need to discover more in order to find out who the villain is. And this section of the mystery rising action involves collecting and interpreting evidence, finding clues, and discovering and interviewing suspects. And as a writer, you introduce all these key characters to the mystery. And this is the moment when you actually add any subplots after the inciting incident. And you create problems for your sleuth. And that's mainly your big job for most of this part of your story. Whatever they do, they're no closer than finding the villain. So, in the middle of your story, which is often called the midpoint, your detective regroups. Everything that they've done up to this point has not gotten them closer to discovering the truth. And so they may feel discouraged, they may feel like quitting, but there's something that gets them to re examine all the information they've collected in the first half of your story, and they begin taking action on that information with their new rethinking. So they may re interview suspects um, a second or even a third time, and they may reinterpret clues and evidence, and mainly they're going to rethink what they previously thought. And that's why I say so much of the quote rising action of a mystery is cerebral, because it's all about how your detective thinks about what they learn. So after the midpoint, all the action is geared toward narrowing down the possibilities. The first half was all about discovering possibilities. The second half of your mystery is about narrowing things down. Um, Depending on your mystery subgenre, you may have a conflict that is an action scene, and often this is a fight with the villain because the villain is cornered. The rising action from the inciting incident toward onward focuses on the puzzle of the mystery and how your detective, using their unique skills, arrives at the revelation of the villain. So we have the first part, which is all about expanding the information, discovering the victim's world, who was in it, how the victim operated. And the second part is narrowing down the focus, discovering the red herrings and putting them aside, reinterpreting clues that might point more directly toward your villain. Um, But once they get to the climax, once they know who the villain is, that's the end of the rising action. You've arrived at the climax. The mystery solved. And as far as mystery readers are concerned, the story is over. I can't emphasize that enough. I know I've talked about how you end a mystery in previous sessions, and it's really important that once that you bring subplots to an end and you tie up all the loose ends before you reveal the villain, because truly, in the mystery reader's heart, once that villain is revealed, the mystery is solved, the puzzle's done, it's all over. So you want to bring your story to a very quick resolution after the climax. So you leave your reader with a positive feeling that, yes, they found the villain, they got him, and the mystery is solved. That's the feeling you want your readers to leave with. Um, so, all this stuff in the middle, why your reader loves rising action, they're there to solve the mystery puzzle. And your challenge as a mystery writer is to keep the puzzle mysterious until the end. That's your big job. That's your job to satisfy your readers. So, rising action in a mystery works when you present puzzle pieces that seem unconnected. All right? The rising action is all about making your mystery mysterious. Now, everything you do as a writer to create and hide clues and give your sleuth trouble when they interview suspects, all of that together is the rising action. It's like they find something and it seems like it's appropriate, but then something else tells your sleuth that they're not quite there yet. All right. At the same time, you want to plant hints in your story. This is one of our craft challenges, is to plant those hints so they're there and the reader realizes at the end that if they'd paid attention to those hints, they would have gotten closer to discovering the villain. And the reader's going to look for those hints. So part of mystery writing is planting the hints but hiding them in plain sight. And that is the hidden rising action of your mystery. Okay, I hope that clarifies. I just wanted to go over that term of rising action and what it means in a mystery. Mainly, it's all about um, the clues, the evidence, the suspects, and the challenges they present to your sleuth. All right, I hope that helps. And I hope that helps you understand how rising action fits in a mystery and how you approach that rising action in your story. Okay, I wanted to remind you once again that I have a new mini course about mystery characters. And if you'd like to delve deeper into your characters and how they work in your story, including the rising action, there's a link in the description below. If this is your first time at Write a Killer Mystery, please subscribe and don't forget to click that little notification bell so you'll know when there's more clues to your mystery. In the meantime, keep writing.